Hello again, this is Brian on my AstroPerennial YouTube channel. This is introductory video number 3. So I'm on a roll. We're went right through 1 and 2, and I looked up at the clock and it's 11:11 a.m. here in Brookfield, Wisconsin, and we're doing video number 3. So I had a little mishap in the first video. I wasn't able to share screen, and in the second video I was able to do some demonstrations on the current transits that were going on when I started this whole introduction using the Astro Gold program, which again, I shout out to great people there that keep developing awesome astrology software. I'm going to share screen again and jump into that and do a little bit of demonstration and analysis of that same transit chart, which I started 10:30 this morning, so 41 minutes ago or so. So let's share screen again. And okay, what am I doing here? Okay, it says I'm screen sharing. I'm having faith that it's working again. Well, this is the wheel here on Astro Gold version 4.3, I believe it is. And I talked in the second video about some of the placements here that I found relevant to my own chart and the beginning here of my YouTube adventure. So what else do I like about this this program, and what could I show you? I really like, well, it's really just a very clean and elegant laid out program in my opinion, but we can tab here between the wheel, the grid, and the dial, which is used in Uranian or symmetrical, or if you want to look at any fourth harmonic aspects, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a while, but we'll go back to the wheel. And a lot of that information is repetitive between these screens, but it shows it in a different manner. So especially like the different what are called the hard aspects or square aspects or fourth harmonic, if we're talking about squares or conjunctions or oppositions, and then there's the more minor square aspects where you got a half a square or square and a half. So I think it was about 4 years ago I was exposed to these ideas that the fourth harmonic aspects are the things that convert to, you know, kind of visible events or creation in our 3D reality. So I read a short writing. I'm not sure where I saw it, but I was bopping around, and it was kind of it was an explanation by Robert Hahn of you know, what is going on when we're clicking on these dials. You know, what this is what would be called a 90-degree dial. It's going from 0 all the way around to 90 degrees. And basically how he explained it, from my recollection, is if we look at the wheel, which is a 360-degree wheel, you could visualize it as taking the 360-degree wheel as like assume this is like a piece of paper, and you fold, well, it's not round, but I have a square piece here. If you, which is maybe appropriate, consider we're talking about these square aspects, but you fold it in half, you know, then you're getting the 180, and then you're folding it in half, and then, you know, you're getting 90. But basically all of this information is getting translated, I guess, in my understanding, within a 90-degree folded over, so things will overlap at certain parts of this reduced section. So if we go down to the dial and we take a look at that, we're seeing some of the same information as we would see in the grid and the wheels. So let's take, for example, I noticed here, I didn't notice at the very beginning in the second video, that Pluto in this dial presentation is very close to the MC. So if I click on the MC, it's showing, well, a midpoint of Pluto and MC of 8 degrees. So probably Pluto's like 16 degrees. I'm thinking, let's take a look at the grid. And if we look at the relationship between Pluto, and I go all the way down, how is it aspecting the MC? Yeah, sure enough, here we have an opposition. It's Pluto's on the IC, it's an opposition, separating aspect, 16 minutes. So that's the same information here. You could have picked that up here. You could also see it visibly here. Here we have a MC 23 degrees, 11 minutes of Cancer, IC 23 degrees, 11 minutes of Capricorn, and here we have Pluto 2255 Capricorn, which is 16 minutes, from conjuncting. Now, because it's retrograding, it's moving away. It's moving away from the IC, so that is called separating. If it was going direct and moving this way, in a direct motion, then it would have been an applying aspect, which is not the case. These are all in the red. I'm sure many people, you just know this, but we could have beginners watching this, but this shows the retrograde motion when it is in red versus black type. So, okay, so that's some of the same information. Well, what's cool about dials, or that whole field of looking at fourth harmonic, Uranian, symmetrical. There's a lot of different overlap in field, people that have done studies into that and what they call it, but it has a lot to do with midpoints too, which is very interesting to me. So if you take certain points, you can click on them. In this example before, we clicked on the MC, and we saw Pluto being highlighted there. It was pretty obvious in the other chart. But let's take a look at the North Node, which is, a prime importance to me when I'm, the reason I was starting somewhere around this time is I knew the sun was close to my North Node. So what does, and it turned out being even closer to my Uranus placement. But let's take a look at where the node is in the wheel. As many of us know, the nodes move backwards through the zodiac, every, I think it's 18 months, year and a half, into the sign prior. So we had, I believe it was in May, North Node entering Gemini, South Node entering Sagittarius. So currently 27 degrees, 3 minutes, Gemini is continuing to move this way for a little bit over a year maybe. So let's go to the dial again. I click on the North Node in Gemini, 27 degrees. What information can I pull from that that might be of interest in this dial? So this is illustrating a midpoint structure. Here in the center, the node is illustrated as 0, 0, 0. That's the point I clicked on. So that's where we're starting from, I think. And then Mars and the sun are shown. See this line going off there. They're in a relationship, and they're in a relationship to the North Node in an orb of 0 degrees, 14 minutes. So we want to look at in this whole technique of, we want to look at the very closest aspects, and you can right click and change the settings and what kind of an orb do you want. Here it says 1 degree, and it's a 90-degree dial. You can change that to 45-degree dial and bring in some more minor square aspects, which are interesting to look at. But we'll leave it at 90 and get back here and click again. But these were of interest to me, just personally, as far as, what you could throw on these symbols as far as meaning. Personally, in my life, I spent the majority of my life in a career that I've kind of just, I guess, inherited. When my father passed away at a young age in my early 20s, I went into the insurance business. That's pretty much all I knew. I'd worked in that agency through high school and college. My father passed. I made a decision to go into that business. My mother was involved in it. There were many reasons. But I've always had kind of a yearning to do things on my own, like many people that had worked in family businesses have at certain points in their life. So this astrology venue is a great outlet for me, and I appreciate being able to get out on YouTube here and share what I'm passionate about. But my son, my identity, maybe even some of my action was maybe not aligning totally with my soul level. So for a majority of my life, I had an itch to be doing something else, and because of circumstances, a lot of things blew up in my life about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's been a transition ever since. And so, this kind of North Node purpose that's uncomfortable, I guess, and people would normally use that type of thing as far as a description. It's you got to reach towards it as far as growth or evolution. I need to reevaluate, continually changing my identity, take actions towards that. I do have fairly strong Sun and Mars placements in my chart, I believe, in my opinion. But so one of the things that I feel pulled towards is to, I guess, advocate for astrology, be a little bit more of a promoter, and however that ends up being. I have the North Node in the 11th house of collective and groups and goals, and all the different meanings that you can overlay on that, but it is conjunct Uranus. And so these symbolism keywords, get grouped in with my North Node, and that's what I'm doing here. But I also have strongly in my chart these lunar and Neptunian signatures. So in fact, if we do the same thing on my own personal chart, which I'm not going to be doing now, but if I look at these midpoints to my MC, the closest midpoint that I have to my MC is Moon Neptune, and then standalone the Sun, and then standalone Uranus. Those are the closest ones, but the very closest is Moon Neptune. So the kind of mystical or spiritual or intuitive side of things, I think, is another part of my own personal journey and chart that is going on in my lifetime. I have Moon in the 12th house. My lunar phase at my birth is balsamic, which is kind of like a 12th house type relationship, is where the Moon is coming in to kind of a closing aspect with the Sun right before it would be a conjunction, which is kind of equivalent to almost like a Pisces or Neptunian type lunar phase. So this is strong in my chart in multiple levels. What we want to do in astrology is look for, repeating patterns. And as often is the case, there's synchronicities. I'm actually getting a little emotional here, but it's cool when it works. And I believe it really always does work. But there's key times when we, really pick up on it and it becomes really significant. So this is kind of a long time coming, and I guess I'm not going to apologize for being emotional because this is important to me. So that's very cool here that I was able to illustrate this. I wasn't really expecting this. But there's some powerful things here. This Pluto on the MC, Jupiter is close to the ascendant. I pointed out. So I'm hoping this is, what would you say? A good outlook for the start of this channel. So I wish you all well. And I know there's a lot of challenging things going on in the world. And astrology gives us a good way of helping to understand what's going on in our own lives, in the collective, in our past, gives us an insight to what cycles we're going through currently, how long those cycles might be, what are some things that are important in our growth, what are our strong points, what are our weak points. It's just a treasure trove of information, and the fact that it's a reflection, from the cosmos, from, this divine architecture and movement and cycles that are happening through time and affecting us in our, experience here on Earth. It's just totally amazing to me. So I hope you agree with that and point, or continue to grow in that understanding and appreciation. So I find it a very, at its root, a spiritual, sacred pursuit, and it should be given, that type of a treatment, and with the understanding that there are only certain segment of society. I know it's growing like crazy on the internet, appreciation of astrology. I don't try to push it on people. I think that it will come to them when the time is right. I had no idea of astrology, zero, until 5 years ago. So for those that are starting out, I think that, maybe you'll find that encouraging. I grew up in a environment, and it's still kind of an environment that is just not that in tune with these type of topics. And I was able to, fortunately, go through an awakening of Pluto-Uranus transit that hit my chart very exact on my angles, and then things totally changed for me. So I'm in phase 2 of my life. It's exciting, and I'm looking forward to sharing more of that with you. So I appreciate you being here. So I will stop sharing now, and you can see my emotion, but again, I wish you well. Goodbye.